Hello and welcome to this lecture on loss of biodiversity. Extinction occurs when the last member of a species dies and the species ceases to exist, so completely gone from the planet. In contrast, the extinction of a certain population from a given area, but not an entire species globally, is called extirpation, which can lead to extinction. Extinction is a natural process, and paleontologists estimate about 99% of all species are now extinct, Most extinctions preceding the appearance of humans have occurred one by one at a rate that paleontologists refer to as the background rate of extinction. Earth has experienced 5 previous mass extinctions where large numbers of species went extinct in a relatively short period of time geologically. So in the past 440 million years, mass extinctions have eliminated at least 50% of all the species on the planet. For instance, the dinosaurs went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period, which is called the Cretaceous Tertiary Extinction. Those are geologic names, and we believe that it was from an asteroid impact. Now, interestingly, at the end of the Cretaceous, when that extinction happened, there were some small mammals that survived, and then they adapted through adaptive radiation into new niches, new habitats, became some of the mammal species we know today. Some scientists believe that humans have set the 6th mass extinction into motion. Here's the issue. Current extinction rates are much higher than normal. So during this modern era, we may lose more than half of all species. Today's extinction event differs from others because it is, 1, caused by humans, and 2, because humans will suffer because of it. There is archaeological evidence that shows that humans were a factor in species extinction before written history, as shown on this map of the continents and some major continents and islands that show extinctions that occurred. To keep track of the current status of endangered species, the World Conservation Union maintains the Red List, which is an updated list of species facing high risk of extinctions. So it is an endangered species list, essentially. And you can see some of the numbers associated with the Red List here. And since 1970, 58 fish species, 9 bird species, and 1 mammal species have gone extinct. In the U.S., in the last 500 years, 236 animals species and 17 plant species are confirmed extinct, although certainly those numbers, the real number is undoubtedly higher. Now, biodiversity loss is more than extinction. You can see that if a population is declining, you'll start to see it'll accompany a shrinking of its geographic range, and we're going to see genetic, ecosystem, and species diversity are starting to be lost. The Living Planet Index, shown here on the right, summarizes trends in populations over time, and you can see that between 1970 and 2003, the Living Planet Index, fell by 30%. On the species that they're measuring, the population sizes of those species. Biodiversity loss has many different causes, and it's a very complex, multifaceted problem. But there are, I guess, 5 major causes for the population decline that we're seeing. Habitat alteration, invasive species, pollution, overharvesting, and global climate change. Habitat alteration causes biodiversity loss. It's probably the greatest cause of biodiversity loss. Think of all the changes that occur on the planet, farming and grazing by animals that humans are raising, clearing forests, damming rivers, building cities, etc. Here's a figure that shows habitat alteration by biome, and you can see the percent of the habitat that is lost or altered, and you can see whether it occurred before 1950 or between 1950 and 1990 based on the color. So take a look at that, kind of see what the trends are and which habitat has the most losses and which are currently losing the most. Another major impact on biodiversity in a negative way is invasive species, which can either be accidental, like the zebra mussels, or intentional, like a fish stocking or food crops planting. Now, the problem is that many times these invaders don't have natural predators or competitors or parasites, and they can outcompete then the native species there or predate them, etc. Pollution is involved in biodiversity loss from air pollution, water pollution, agricultural runoff, etc. Although pollution is a substantial threat, it tends to cause less damage than habitat alteration or invasive species. Overharvesting is a major cause of biodiversity loss, especially coupled with the other ideas. Vulnerable species are large, few in number, long-lived, and have few young. So these are those so-called K-selected species. A good example is the Siberian tiger, which is hunted without rules and regulations, but it falls into that K-selected species. The early 1990s saw increased tiger poaching because of powerful economic incentives, and this is happening all over the planet. Other examples: Atlantic gray whale, sharks, gorillas. Climate change also causes biodiversity loss. The manipulation of the Earth's climate system is having global impacts on biodiversity. The emissions of greenhouse gases are changing climate, right? Warming temperatures, changing weather patterns, leading to drying out or getting wetter, cooler, or warmer depending on the impact. And many species will not be able to cope. Warming has been the greatest threat in the Arctic, and now the polar bear has been listed on the U.S. endangered species list, and that's been in the news a lot lately. I want you to take a look at this biodiversity loss or causes and consequences map and just walk through it and kind of, as it says in below, as you progress through the rest of this chapter, try to identify as many solutions to biodiversity loss as you can. What could you personally do to help address this issue? Consider how each action or solution might affect items in the concept map above. All right, thanks for listening to this lecture on biodiversity loss, and let me know if you have any questions.